I want you to watch this video with an open mind. By the end you should have a more clear picture of Dragon Age Veilguard. Some of the reviewers said the game is not too dark, some said it's woke trash and they didn't like anything about it. Well, I wanted to see it with my two own eyes, so yeah, I got the game. I can see how someone would give this game a 9 or even a 10, but I expect more from a game of this scale and a game that took 9 or so years to make. Originally designed with substantial live service components, Veilguard shifted to a full-on single-player RPG in 2021. 6 years after development began. With this in mind, and the fact that this piece is a subjective opinion of a 44-year-old dad who loves video games, let's delve into Dragon Age Veilguard and see what's up. I'll talk about the gameplay, the world, quests and story with minimal spoilers of course, graphics, performance, and show you how it all comes together. Because this is very important and you will realize this later. If I do my job and give you some useful insight, please like and subscribe, hell, even post a comment telling me your experience with the game if you played it. I realize this is a very polarizing game. I saw a lot of heated arguments about it, from the writing, the characters, to the social issues this game is trying to push. While I don't think it's a big deal, when something is being annoying, it affects the overall experience. You can skip to a particular section of this video, by the way, if you want, because it has timestamps, but I advised against it, because you might lose a point I'm trying to make. But yeah, let's start with the beginning. I'll touch on the above issues on the story section of the video. The gameplay becomes better after 10 or so hours into the story. I think they exaggerated with the cinematics in the beginning, giving you very few and very short combat encounters between those cutscenes, and that lasts for the first hours of playtime if you stick with the story missions. And at first, the exploration part is non-existent. But let's start with the actual beginning, shall we? The character creator. They forgot to add the functioning chest and ass size sliders, so I cranked everything to -100. So at least we all know why my character is flat as a wooden board. Then I widened her shoulders and increased the waist width, and of course got the bulge size to 100%. Then I got a cool hairstyle but painted it blue because I could. Despite my efforts, I came up with a cutie. No idea how some of you guys are making those abominations I saw online. And finally, I chose some big scars all over my body because I think I'll be scarred by the time I'm done with this game. The gameplay loop is this. You start from your base because after your main quest you always end up back there talking with your team, taking quests from them, having meaningful conversations and sometimes even debate social issues of utmost importance.
Oh no! Sorry. Just breaking things.
Want help? I could, I don't know, kick it or something.
Oh, yes. Just be careful. Some things don't do well. If you break them, I mean.
What kind of don't do well are we talking about?
Oh, you know.
You pick your two companions that will accompany you, sort out their gear and skills, so all of you complement each other nicely. Then you get a new main quest and you can go at that location manually through the crossroads or just teleport there. Some skills apply certain afflictions and effects while other skills detonate them. It's a pretty straightforward and satisfying skill system. What I don't like about it is the fact that you have only 3 skills that you use regularly and an ultimate ability. And you can't put your companion skills on your bar, so you have to use that tab menu that pauses the game in order to cast them. All this because the game is console first, of course, and they have a limited number of buttons. You also have dodge ability with only some sort of global cooldown, so that's pretty much spammable. My character has this kind of blink if I press space twice, covering more ground. It's pretty neat. The abilities are satisfying to use because they look great and are powerful, making an immediate impact on the battlefield. The gameplay becomes repetitive after a while because the number of options you have is pretty limited and the enemy types are not that great either. You got some abilities locked behind level 20 specializations, but after that you have nothing to work towards. Only some passives and synergies. You can change builds, I guess. And what doesn't help in that regard are the puzzles. Who did you make these puzzles for? I feel the puzzles are for 8-year-olds. I swear to God, they are intuitive. And you get some satisfaction when you figure out some of them for the first time. But after you do them 30 times, you just get annoyed. There's these pulsating organic blobs of corruption that are interconnected. You often need to destroy one or more blobs to open the path in order to progress to the quests. Later on, some of them are hidden or you need to do them in a certain order, but nonetheless, the mechanic is overused and boring after a while. Then you have these floating red crystals that power and shield each other in a chain after locking you out of your objective. So you need to find the first crystal in the chain and destroy them one by one until you leave the shield. Then you have the wisps that need to be placed in a socket, and then because the game designers got a bit lazy, you have the same mechanic but with a mechanical looking thingy that does the same thing as the wisp. Then you have these interactable objects that are scattered all around the world, often blocking your access to one of the previously described mechanics. So you or one of your party members can activate those things and move on. But you need to pause the game to do so, and it's annoying. With all these mechanics there's little ingenuity, and when you repeat them so often they become annoying. To finish explaining the game loop, once you enter the level for the first time you will see some chests on your map. Once you reach one you can open it, but only once. It stays open for the rest of the playthrough. No idea if the loot is static or it's randomized, but the bigger and better chests are usually hidden by one or multiple mechanics described above. Opening one of the chests often rewards you with items. I like the itemization in this game, to be honest. If you find a white recruit tunic, for example, the next time you find the same item, it becomes green when you loot it. Then blue, purple, orange, and finally red. And that's the same item, so you don't have to juggle with the inventory and you don't lose any upgrades and enchantments you applied beforehand. So I like this part. What I don't like about the itemization is the looks. And yeah, who designed these things? I don't have a clue. Most armor looks like those abominations you see on fashion shows. And I got news for you guys. Nobody actually wears that shit. Besides, for example, I like the recruit tunic I talked before, because it has a lot of ability damage and that's helpful to my class. I'm a mage. But because of this upgrade system, I look like a damn recruit even late game. At least the game lets you transmog your gear, so in the end, if you really want, you can scrape something together. And one more thing I dislike with the items, the companions don't have a health system, so their gear only has damage stats. And for that reason, NPCs and bosses mostly target you, unless you have a companion that has some sort of taunt ability or mechanic in the party. The boss enemies are too few and far between. There are some mini bosses around, but they are pretty much irrelevant. And as far as I know, there is no incentive for you to play this on higher difficulties. There's no extra loot or XP or anything. And there's no search function in the skill trees, and I'd like to be able to search for a keyword or an attribute. I don't know. And this is pretty much everything I could think of.
More people.
Come on, that sounds close.
The main takeaway of this section is gameplay is cool, but it gets interrupted too much by cinematics early game, and by mid game, when there are fewer cinematics, it gets repetitive and annoying. Story now. The elephant in the room. The character writing. Guys, I could care less if you put 20 genders in the character creation or make almost all villains in your video game white males. I don't care. But if you're dead set to assassinate me with that, I demand a good story with compelling characters. First of all, let's meet your companions. They are not as preachy as people are trying to make them, by the way.
What? You're hungry? I found a yam in the kitchen. Stubborn just means you'll starve.
Trouble settling in?
Doing the best I can.
Darwin wanted to make history, so he joined the Grey Wardens and made a name for himself as a monster hunter. Now he cares for Hassan, a young griffon. This character is pretty cool overall, and Hassan is pretty damn cute. I love everything about that little guy.
He's a shameless flirt.
That's because he's such a pretty boy, isn't he? I remember feeding him gingerwort truffles as a baby.
So
Hey.
Tash lives for adventure and does not mind taking risks. They are a thrill-seeking, headstrong, blunt and straightforward dragon hunter who wields dual axes and breathes out flames. But they have an existential crisis the entire game, almost, making dialogues with them very unidimensional and uninteresting, in my opinion.
Don't get in my way.
Nah. Anything we hunt is salvage. Old forgotten ruins and crap. And we make sure we're not screwing over a culture that lost it. Still a stupid name. Dragon King. Dragons wouldn't have kings. They'd have queens.
You're safe now. Get inside and bar the doors quick as you can, okay?
Thank you, miss.
Lace Harding. She loves adventures, animals and nature and is fiercely protective of her family and friends. But she doesn't stand out. I keep her out of my party most of the time.
sounds like I'm cleaning up your mess.
Rook.
No, Harding. This is my mess.
The Inquisition saved the world.
We solved a problem, and in doing so, accidentally created several new problems.
The crows send their regards.
Lucanis de la Morte.
So we got your
A poised and pragmatic assassin who descends from the bloodline of House of Crows, a criminal organization renowned throughout Tedas. He's possessed by a demon that comes out from time to time, and I like his accent. Pretty cool guy.
Smells like blood. Ashes. Not done, not yet.
I caught her trying to save the city. The ritual, what she wanted to summon. She'd have sacrificed us all.
Neve Gallus is a cynic fighting for a better future, both as a private detective and a member of the Winter's rebellious shadow dragons. She is one of the most stoic characters in this game. It's one of the virtues I appreciate in a companion. This means she keeps the whining to a minimum, and because of that she gets spot in my party all the time, and we have a thing.
You know, you're sweet with him.
Aren't I always?
Agreed. I've made some inquiries. This man is one of the Death Mage's victims.
Emeric Volcarin, a necromancer of Navarra's Moonwatch who comes complete with a skeletal assistant, Manfred. What a gentleman. This companion grew with me over the course of the game. He's like a grandpa and I love him.
You know your plants.
Alchemy is my hobby. It's a break from teaching spirit calling and theoretical applied metaphysics.
Raw magic. Thick as fog. Only a god, or gods, could have done that.
Belara Lutare, a creative and romantic veil jumper obsessed with uncovering ancient secrets. She is not as annoying as people make her out to be, but sure. Her overly optimistic tone can get on your nerves while she is in your party, you know. Luckily, you can get through the entire game without taking her in your party more than, I don't know, 2 times, maybe 3. She evolves. By the end of the story, she's getting better.
But Minrathous was built to hold off an army, even before Elgranon fortified it.
So, yeah, BioWare sadly failed to write good characters at the start of the game. The second part becomes more dark and there are a few unexpected developments with the characters that I really enjoyed. The game surprised me in the second half more than once. So yeah, I get it. I think the game got changed a lot in 2021 when there was the big switch, so perhaps the writers only had 3 years to deliver. Still, the bland and low energy characters that we have in Dragon Age Veilguard has no excuse. If you compare the writing in this game with Baldur's Gate 3, Red Dead Redemption 2 or Cyberpunk, it would look like you compare Rings of Power with the new series from HBO, Penguin. While playing in the beginning it feels like I'm a shrink and all my characters came to therapy, you know. Almost everyone is so insecure, if not outright broken, it gets annoying pretty fast. It's like you are talking with your insecure girlfriend. You often need to reassure the companions that they can do whatever they put their mind to, etc. It's annoying and tiresome. And all this would be fine if those characters would evolve in some way, if they develop as you progress into the game. Because this is what makes decent characters great. But some of them don't evolve much. And it's a pity. And yeah, don't get me wrong, the story in itself, it's okay, nothing special, but it's what you expect in these games. Meaning the story is very passable, you know. The dialogues and some of the characters drag it down for me. Now the player agency is average most of the game. Meaning your freedom is limited by a number of factors. Sometimes I look at the answers available to me in a conversation and realize I wouldn't say any of those things. And to be frank, I'm not sure your actual inputs even matter. I can tell this in one playthrough though, so take that with a grain of salt. So in closing, the story picks up slowly and it's kinda cringy here and there, boring at times due to the dull characters writing, but by the end it picks up, becomes darker and darker. The characters get better as they were written by a different person. And yeah, it all culminates with the final battle. There are some unexpected twists along the way that I really enjoyed. Pity the start doesn't do justice the end. Now level design. This is a short chapter, not present in most of my reviews, but I feel with this game is needed, as I have 3 points about this. I like the level design overall, but the levels are too linear, even in the more open parts. If you stray just a bit off the path, you drown, for example, or you fall to your death. But it would have been better if, I don't know, they just implemented swimming, god damn it, or just, I don't know, make the water more shallow. And yeah, easy fix. The linear nature of the levels make the backtracking you will have to do in some of the levels painful and annoying. Often you need to activate a device, then go do some objective, then return to the device, activate it again, then go do another objective. And the areas that will have combat encounters are so damn evident because they look like theater stages. You run to a narrow path, but you come across a big, mostly flat opening. Well, you are done right, there's some enemies spawning right there. Ooh. Shocking. I don't know, this level design seems too old school. With all this progressive shit they're coming up with, you'd think the level designers try new things as well, but no. One more thing, I dislike the lighthouse logic and design. That's your base of operations, by the way. It looks great, but I don't like where they put the player spawn point. When you want to do a quick companion mission, for example, and, I don't know, have conversations with them, you often are loading other levels, but when you are done with those missions and return, you are placed into a room far away from all your companions. Making that run all the time gets annoying fast, such a waste of time. You always should be returned at the last player position. I don't give a rat's ass about the default room you put me in, I don't want to be there, ever. Some of the levels are like a maze, but for that reason you need to teleport around pretty often. I mean, I want to shorten the travel distance as much as I can, so all these loading times add up, almost making a semi-Starfield-like experience at times. I'm not saying it's that bad, but just saying, there's a lot of loading in this game, making the experience a bit too fragmented for my taste. Graphics now. In all seriousness, this game has the best looking hair rendering I saw in my life. Good job to the tech guy who was responsible for hair rendering and physics. Other than that, I like the skin and clothing shaders, and the game has great lighting and models. I don't like the distant shadows resolution and the lack of any time of ambient occlusion on distant buildings. These things coupled with the fog leaves you with a flat looking backdrops, in my opinion. But don't think the game looks bad or anything. What I described here is what I think as an environment artist myself they should have done for the game to look even better. The enemy models are pretty generic, and to be frank, some of them are even bad looking. But the environment is mostly great, with the occasional mag looking area from time to time. Take a look at the clip I'm playing, for example. It's just beautiful and dark. No idea what people are smoking in the reviews, but the game has pretty damn dark bits and pieces, not every area though. Now the performance. This is good, I had no issues playing this in 1440p maxed out, but I have a monster of a PC, so yeah. What I hear is good. The loading times, if you don't have a good SSD, I believe the loading times are pretty long. Now the sound, the voice actors did good. Let's just say they did the best they could with the provided material, you know. There are not many environmental sounds, but it's okay, I guess. Couple that with the Hans Zimmer score, I have nothing to add really. It's Hans Zimmer, guys, come on, it's pretty epic. The menu and UI are fine, but they look good, but it's just a console game ported on PC. And it shows, from the UI to the limited abilities on your bar, etc. And it looks like they ported the UI straight from Hogwarts Legacy as well. The value proposition in Dragon Age Veilguard is quite high, as you will get educated, and that's invaluable. Yeah, no, seriously, the value proposition is okay as long as you power through the bad bits. The $1 per hour can become a reality. I finished the game in almost 42 hours, but I skipped some of the companion quest lines and I didn't do that many region quests either. So there should be 50 to 60 hours of content in the game for everyone. No idea how they got to 100 hours for 100% though. But yeah, perhaps. I'm not saying it's not there because I don't know. Love it or hate it, vote with your wallet if you have strong beliefs in a way or another. As I'm not telling you what to like or dislike. I'm just a 44-year-old dad who is working in this industry for 20 plus years now and enjoys playing video games in his spare time. I want monetization to be less predatory and I want to raise awareness of the shady practices of some of the bad actors in this industry. Let's look at the pros and cons for a quick recap before I give it a score. Pros: lengthy story, good graphics, perfect lighting and shading and camera work in cinematics, great sound and score, good value for money if you finish the game. Characters are not as bad as some people make it out to be. Yeah, I know, this is highly subjective, but that's my opinion. Cons now. This is a console first game, PC second, and for me this is big. It's very important. I don't care about consoles. Sorry. Too many cinematics early game. Yeah, there are too many. And you're not playing the game too much. Linear levels, as described, my problem with them is they are a bit too linear and some of them are like a maze where you need to figure out the same puzzles you did 10 times before. Goofy characters, the ones that start out goofy by the end become more and more serious, by the way. Terrible character writing at the beginning. Too few and too short combat encounters early game. Stupid puzzles, yeah, no comment really. Ugly enemy models, some of them. Social issues that have no business being in video games are present and they seem forced like they usually do. Look, if you manage to integrate this seamlessly, nobody would give a f. But saying shit like this out of the blue is just because it's... The story in this kind of game has way more weight than in other games because of the amount. It weighs way more than in Diablo games, for example. Now, before my final score of the game, let me tell you a little story. I made a friend of mine refund the pre-order he had for the game after we watched Skill-Up's review. Then I started playing the game for this review, of course. First impressions were pretty bad. I told him the game is and he made the right call. After I reached mid-game, the game kinda grew on me a little bit and told him the game is so far is, I don't know, 6 out of 10 or something. Then continued playing and the story got darker and made me make some choices that had nasty consequences. The game totally surprised me by the end and now I have to look my friend in the eyes and tell him I was wrong. So yeah, if you're looking at this, bro, I was wrong, okay? By the end, the entire experience was 8 out of 10 for me. That means I recommend it. For you, it might end up being a 6 or a 7 or even a 9. But please don't come here with zeros out of 10 or 10 out of 10 like some reviewers did. Come on guys, if this is a 10 out of 10, Baldur's Gate 3 is 11 or what? It said some of you did this for future early access. This is why all access media is cancer and needs to go. Even YouTubers are a bit disingenuous when they receive access to these games for early reviews, as you would imagine. I watched too many opinions on the game before I played it myself, and usually I don't watch any before I make up my mind. But yeah, if you get past the beginning of the game with all the cringe and the weird playful tone of some of the conversations, you'll like this more and more, I'm pretty sure of it. So yeah, like and subscribe, help me help you find good games, as I'll never receive early access to any game for obvious reasons, because one, I'm bad, someone told me I'm bad, And two, I talk about some games in a way it's unacceptable for companies, but remember this. I feel for every single developer who shows up and does his, her, they, them, whatever job every day. My critiques are aimed mostly at creative directors, writers, sometimes art directors, CEOs, shareholders and so on. Never the little guy, because he does like he's told. So yeah guys, girls and non-binary people, I recommend this game if you don't mind most negative things I described in the video. Until next time, happy gaming, take care and see ya.
There you have it.